Should we not close the book on Darren Waller quite yet? Where should Jaden Higgins be drafted in FFPC leagues this season? And what should you do when you're on the clock and Mark Andrews is staring you in the face? Plus, the 35-time FFPC League champion and 2025 FFPC Pros versus Joe's drafter, Todd Aaron, hops aboard to dish on his strategy for this year's challenge, his expectations for Brock Purdy this season, and so much more. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
The pressure, I've seen greater men than me, the less.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture, are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by the Fantasy Football Players Championship over at myffpc.com. I am your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. You follow me on the X at Eric Balkman. You know me from the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. Of course, the Insider Access show on Better Sports Network and the Fantasy Football Players Championship. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of Ferrell Elliott. He's going to be joining me. I'll bring him on here shortly. I want to let you know that if you're looking for some action, if you want to play in the FFPC and take advantage of all the great advice that our guests are dispensing on this show each and every week, sometimes twice a week, go to myffpc.com and play the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament. There's $1 million grand prize at stake. You're going to get a $50 discount every time or for every third team you sign up for. Drafts both live and slow, off and running. 7 Bananas promo is live. We've given away almost 24 free FFPC Best Ball Tournament teams. We've given away 3 FFPC Main Event teams for that promo. You can take advantage of it as well. Check it out at myffpc.com. The FFPC Main Event is our flagship event. That's another contest with $1 million grand prize. We've had slow drafts running all the time and then seemingly live drafts just on the weekends. That's going to change this month now that we're into July. We're going to have more live main events for you as well. Check that out at myffpc.com. If best ball's more your play that you want to do that, that's cool. Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball Tournaments available at myffpc.com. The Best Ball Tournament has a $300,000 grand prize and a $100,000 runner-up prize, $100,000 grand prize in the Superflex Tournament, and that's just $35 to enter. The Best Ball is $125. You're going to have 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks to play with in the Best Ball Tournament as well. And if you want to add some Dynasty startups, go ahead and get on it at myffpc.com. 15-plus years of the FFPC Dynasty regime and 2,000-plus leagues. None of those 2,000 have ever folded. So once you are in one with the FFPC, you know you're going to be in that Dynasty for as long as you want to be in there at myffpc.com. Remember to like, subscribe, comment on this video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified by clicking on that notification bell so you know every time we're going to go live, and I'll tell you more on that coming up at the end of the program. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to debate how big Chuba Hubbard's workload is going to be this season, how Evan Engram is going to fare in his first run as the Joker in Sean Payton's offense, and then, of course, the 35-time league champ Todd Aaron. We'll talk about Tyreek Hill, Russell Wilson, and how he's going to try to take out all those pros and some Joes in the FFPC Pros versus Joes Challenge. Darren Armani, who runs that Fantasy Mojo, has published, I think, the first 3 leagues draft order. Some of these are going to be some pretty tough competition for the pros and Joes. We're excited to be broadcasting those on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour YouTube channel coming up at the end of the month as well. Scott Christian says he misses Oinker in the YouTube chat. I want to tell you, Scott, that Oinker misses you too. And he says hello. And we'll get into your question here right away almost. I want to bring on Ferrell Elliott first. KFFSC.com is where to go for one of the best run contests out there. Looking for a few more heroes so I can fill a couple more KFFSC leagues for me selfishly. Check it out at kffsc.com. Ferrell, good Wednesday evening to you, sir.
Balky, it is a good Wednesday evening, and happy Independence Day week. I'm so glad to. Are you going to be around family this weekend?
Yes, I will be with them most of the weekend, I would say. That's the plan.
Are
yes.
you still getting a little family feedback regarding the beard?
Yes. My daughter has shifted to total anti-beard now. She's get rid of it, Dad. Yeah.
As the family sits around and ruminates about the beard, this ongoing conversation, I was joined by friends the other night. I wanted to say hello to Biplab Mandel and wish him a happy recovery from some of his health issues that he's having this summer. And I want Biplab to know, and all the other listeners to know, that I acquired a bottle of Old Bardstown for him. And Old Bardstown is not an expensive nor an allocated bourbon, but what is unique to it is it can only be bought within the confines of the state of Kentucky. And so we were sitting around over a group of old fashions and discussing and celebrating, the Balky beard. And it was, I had some friends that don't normally play fantasy football like our FFPC players, but they do watch the show, and they comment on all your skill set, and especially the way you present yourself with a beard. And one of my buddies mentioned that, with all respect to the Grateful Dead, that you are now exhibiting a touch of gray. And to me, that implies history. And, as we move into another year of FFPC, KFFSC play, there's no richer history than what becomes from Balky and play partner Don Erickson. So we're thrilled that the beard is still here. And I just wanted to vote pro beard as you go into the weekend of anti-beard opinions.
Yeah. Well, I'll get plenty of that for sure. And we'll see. I'll keep everybody updated on the status. I think it's probably as close as I've come fairly close to shaving it off already. So there may not, I don't know how many more months it's got in it. But that first show I do clean shaven, nobody's going to recognize me. At least that's the plan. We'll see what happens. Ferrell, we have our good buddy Scott Christian with our first question tonight. And he says, quick question. I think that's a lie, because I don't think this is a quick question. Well, maybe it's a quick question, but I think it's a long answer. With Jonnu Smith being traded to Pittsburgh, how are we valuing Darren Waller and the others in Miami, possibly Freiermuth as well? We need to take a look at this, Ferrell. Normally, first of all, I'll give my thoughts on Waller first. Normally, a guy who gives up the NFL for his music career and then comes back at 32 years old, not playing football the previous year. Normally, I'm not interested in that player at all. And then I look at the Miami Dolphins tight end room, and it is a barren wasteland of players, A, I've never heard of, or B, who have not done much with their opportunities so far. Mm-hmm. So I think I am in business with Darren Waller. Given last night we were talking with Vince Staffolino on the road of his high-stakes lowdown, and I told him, the two drafts I commissioned last night for the Big Gorilla, round 13 for Waller, round 17 for Waller. Fine with both those spots. Vince said he was fine with both of them as well. Where do you start looking at in the Big Gorilla in a tight end premium format? What round do you start looking at Darren Waller?
The 35th. I think anyone that can make a strong case for any of the tight ends you just mentioned is delightfully optimistic, and the kind of person that I would love to talk fantasy football with. But I believe in all the constructs of this trade, what has happened is Freiermuth, and Freiermuth has been in the league for a long time. Mm-hmm. And we think of him as an old grizzled veteran, but he's 26 years old, Balky. A lot of good football in front of a young player like that. And I think what we've taken is what I see as a fairly good ceiling for Freiermuth, and we've brought it to the regular 60 catches that he always has. Mm-hmm. Waller, to me, is a non-starter in this situation. It's a non-starter in conversation. I don't see him. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. And so the real question becomes Smith. And, it's a $12 million extension for a player that when he was in Smith's system at Atlanta, he generated about 50 catches. He did not find the end zone on regularity, and he played a lot of roles for the team. That's what one of the writers briefed us on earlier this week. He's in the slot. He's in the backfield. He's going to do all these things, and that's going to be good football purpose. And he does have a higher ceiling than his 50 catches previously in Atlanta, but he will not match what he did what he did last year. So my longer answer to this short question, which is actually a long question, is I would rather do business elsewhere in the tight end and just stay out of this mess. If you want to buy a lottery ticket on any of these players, I think that's what you're doing. And best of luck to you.
I hesitate to bring up the mojo on these guys because it's for the last 3 days of the Big Gorilla. And I'm citing fantasymojo.com. Darren Armani can be followed on X at Fantasy Mojo. If you have a subscription or if you play in the FFPC, highly encourage you to get a subscription to Fantasy Mojo with the tools he has invaluable. And obviously the godfather of the Pros versus Joes challenge as well. So instead of saying the mojo, I'll tell you that in the last 3 days, Pat Freiermuth has fallen as late as round 17. Jonnu Smith has fallen as late as round 10. And I'll look up Waller too, just because I don't know where he went in that 10 p.m. draft last night. I was on the air. Waller, 1303 is his high water mark right now.
Freiermuth in the 17th round, Balky, a tight end that he'll catch his 60 passes. And you can maybe find utility in that.
What does Bob Harrison, football guys, always say? Divorce the name from the numbers. You're talking about a tight end, a top 2 tight end in an Arthur Smith offense falling to the 17th round in a tight end premium format. I mean, I think regardless of who it is, you should probably want to be if you're willing to take a lottery ticket on Darren Waller in round 13 or beyond, you definitely should be down with Pat Freiermuth in round 16 or 17 for sure. Leah, the Adam Hahn chiming in on YouTube right now. Do not shave the glorious beard, Balky.
Yes, sir.
All good things must come to an end, but it's here for a while yet, Adam. You'll get sick of it. I promise you. Let's go to Charlotte. Alex Zietlow, who covers the Panthers for the Charlotte Observer, said that he believes Chuba Hubbard will still receive, quote, the overwhelming majority of touches in the Panthers' backfield. Now, he said that the total amount of carries are going to drop this year because, quite frankly, they have to. But he said this is more management for Hubbard because they want to keep him healthy over the course of the season. He still believes he's the goal line there. He thinks Rico Dowdle and Trevor Etienne are actually going to be splitting snaps behind Hubbard this year. So the death of Chuba Hubbard after the signing of Rico Dowdle and the drafting of Trevor Etienne has been much overrated. Ferrell, I've grabbed him in probably 3 KFFSC leagues so far. Running back 18 at the 412. We are talking about Omarion Hampton, RJ Harvey, Joe Mixon territory. I do believe the Panthers offense is on the come up. This is an ascending group of talented ball players that not only will have Hubbard, but obviously Ted McMillan, and we saw what Bryce Young was able to do the last third of the season last year, or quite frankly, the last half of the season. I want to be in business with Chuba Hubbard at that 4-5 turn. Oh,
you should, Balky. And so, again, we get to award the Captain Obvious Award to this writer Zietlow with a Z. He thinks Hubbard is going to get the majorities of the carries. Now, what makes him think he's going to do less than he did last year? A successful offense at Carolina possibly means more than he did last year. 250 carries, 4.8 yards per carry, double-digit touchdowns. They threw him more passes than they'd ever thrown before, and he caught 43 of them. I'm still waiting for him to bust one. He's never had that catch in long run. Chuba Hubbard is a delightful player in a real desert, a Carolina desert, so to speak, of opportunities. You get all you can of Hubbard. You can't overpay for this player.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could, but I don't think you have to. I think
you can't. He won't. He'll get out of the 4th and maybe into the 3rd round, and you won't be overpaying for him then either.
Okay.
That's a question. He needs to subscribe to this mojo, and he could answer it, but let's answer it for him.
Yeah, Scott Hoyt, our good buddy, former guest of the show, wants to know where Mojo has him. 412, Scott, running back 18 right now. That's over the last 3 days of the Big Gorilla Tournament for the FFPC, and you can play that as well. $350 gets you in the running for $1 million grand prize. Absolutely. I'll tell you what else you should do. You should listen to this next guy that we got coming up for the next 25, 30 minutes here. This is a player that in fact, I'm going to look it up right now, Ferrell. This guy that we had on, or the first time we had this guy on was, I'm trying to find it here right now. It might have been.
It was not soon enough.
It might have been 13 years ago. It might have been 13 years ago. It's my mistake because we haven't had him on since.
No,
but
he's
tonight,
been on. We've done the show. I've been with Scott on the show.
With
Todd on the show.
With Todd, was he a guest or was he popping on because
he was a popper? He was popping on.
Yeah, because Todd is in a lot of the live drafts we do, which we appreciate because this guy, as Theo Greminger would say, he's a real one. He is a 35-time FFPC league champion and is an FFPC Pros versus Joe's drafter this year. You can follow him on the X at Mad Genius of FB1. He is the original Mad Genius of fantasy football, and he joins us tonight. Please welcome back onto these airwaves, Mr. Todd Aaron. Todd, good evening. Welcome aboard, man.
How you doing, Balky? Ferrell?
Doing good. We're doing good. We're excited to have you on. This is fun. Has it been like since you've been the sole guest of the show? I think it was the first year when Dave Gerzak and I were doing this. I think that was the last time we had you on, right?
Dave was on. Yeah.
It's been a while. It has been a while, but we have so much to catch up on. You've enjoyed so much success since we've had you on. I want to leap right into it and talk about a heavy hitter at the top of the draft. You think about Bucky Irving last year, Todd. I don't know what your policy was on drafting him, but it cost you a lot less to draft Bucky Irving in 2024 than what it cost you to draft him in 2025. He has shot up, according to the Mojo right now. Bucky Irving is RB8 at the end of the second round. 210 is where he's going. He's rubbing elbows with Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane, Jonathan Taylor. Given the surge in ADP, given that he came out of nowhere, is your level of concern that a regression to the mean could be coming for Bucky Irving and he does not pay off in that ADP? Or I guess I could look at the flip side. Maybe he hasn't hit his ceiling yet, and 2025 could be even in a bigger year.
Yeah, so I've seen him go in the mid-second round, and I got him at 211 in one of my big gorilla drafts. So I'm a believer. I think running back 8 or 9 is a fair place for him. The Tampa Bay offense should put up big numbers. And he can also be a 3-down back, though he does have to compete with Rachaad White for touches. I just think when it's crunch time, Tampa Bay will turn to Bucky Irving.
Yeah,
so I expect big things from him. Even though Rachaad White had a decent rookie season in 2023, they still drafted Bucky in 2024. Mm-hmm. And I heard through the training camp last year that they were really high on him. So I think he's the real deal. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't expect him to exceed 211, 210, something like that. But I think you're going to get good value at that spot.
And it's been 13 years since you've come on and shared this wisdom outside of the pop-on, as we discussed. And the Dizzle was co-hosting with Balky back then. See how far this show has plummeted in those 13 years. Come on. But throughout those 13 years, no matter what shape the show is in now, your history and your record and my understanding of who you are it's just magnificent. 35 championships, a best ball fiend. You take a group of 20 players and it just automatically transmutes into a monster that rolls through everyone and wins championships. It's a career of achievement. I think you should change all your team names to Artful because that's what they are to me. But Mad Genius, I suppose, works too. Now, let's go down to Tampa and let's stay there. Let's just stay on Tampa because Mike Evans, here's a player that Balky and I come on and listen to people. And Balky, have you heard it much in the last couple of years? Because I seem to hear it as much like an echo chamber. Mike Evans is not going to have the same year he had the year before. Have we heard that? Okay, so what has he done? Ever since he entered the league, the artful front office who drafted him and has kept him in Tampa, 1,000 yards receiving every year. Double-digit touchdowns for the last 5 years. Doesn't matter who's quarterback. And sure, he had Brady and Mayfield, but yeah, it's been difficult with some other years.
He's got Mayfield again this year, too, for what it's worth.
Yes, he does. He turns 32 years old in August. I'm not giving up on him. I would like him to be on all my teams. Will he be on all yours?
Yes. I like Mike Evans. I don't know why people are down on him, but as you mentioned, the last couple of years, it seemed like people were. And as you also mentioned, he's got 1,000 yards every season. So I'm just going to ride him until he dies, basically.
And he's always hurt, according to some. He's always ailing. But he always plays in all the games, with the exception of last year where he missed 2.
Right. He puts up the numbers. I think he's going in the mid-4th. And that seems like a fair spot. I was looking at the other wide receivers, the ones that go before him. That's probably justified. And the ones after him, I prefer Evans. Well, there are a couple guys in the 5th round that I like, Devontae Smith and Jamison Williams. But honestly, you could get them both. You could take Evans and Smith or Evans and Williams. So,
Balky, could you tell us some 3rd-round receivers that you don't think would get 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns?
Ooh, 3rd-round receivers. That okay. Let's talk about that. I could see Tyreek Hill on that list, but more to come on him. I could see T. Higgins on that list, and that's more related to injury more than anything else with Higgins and Hill. If you want to say a non-injury guy, what happens if Kelsey crushes it? What happens if Xavier Worthy crushes it? Maybe Rashee Rice doesn't touch 1,000 yards.
We got to get to that later.
And then I'll say Devontae Adams, too. If Puka Nacua stays healthy, maybe Adams is more like a 7-touchdown, 900-yard guy. I don't know. I think that those are all in the realm of possibilities there. Those are all 3rd-round guys. Mike Evans goes in the middle of the 4th, as Todd pointed out, too. So you could get, like I said, like you could get Evans plus, some of these other guys, too. I want to keep it on Tampa. Ferrell said we're going to stay in Tampa, so we're going to do that. Scott Hoyt wants to know here as I flash it up on the screen. Well, that's Sean Green answering Scott Hoyt's question. My apologies here, gentlemen.
Green's a winner.
We have Sean Green, who was in Pros vs. Joes last year. Scott Hoyt wants to know Jalen McMillan or Emeka Egbuka as wide receiver 3 this year. My money is on Egbuka, Todd. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. Before the NFL draft, I was really high on Egbuka. But I didn't like the landing spot, even though I think Tampa Bay is going to put up a lot of yards and score a lot of points. There's just a lot of bodies competing for the targets with Cade Otton and then your 2 starters, Evans and Godwin. And maybe McMillan gets a fair share too. I don't really know. But I think Egbuka is probably going to be the 3rd wide receiver. I don't know how many 3 wide receiver sets they run in Tampa Bay.
Well, it's a new OC this year, too, so I don't know if they know yet,
Yeah, so I still like him. I didn't draft him as much in the Dynasty rookie drafts just because of where he landed and then where he was going. There's a few other guys I like more. I think we're going to talk about one of them later.
I love talking about guys later. But I guess we got to get out of Tampa.
Yes, we do.
All right, Balky teased a little bit of Kansas City Chiefs last week. Do you watch the show Mad Genius? Do you have time to invest in our little hourly weekly offering here?
I haven't missed one in 13 years.
By damn, that's in the show right now, Balky. Say good night. Let your weekend begin here. By damn, that's as good as it gets. Okay. Last week we had Jason Camp on the show, a fellow Kentuckian and a gentleman that I was so thrilled. And Balky and Todd, you guys will be glad to know that he joined the Kentucky Leagues immediately after the show last week. Thank you very much, Jason. And when I asked him our question of who he will not be touching this year, he came, he said, I will ignore in all drafts Rashee Rice. And you, as an expansive thinker, please expound on what your expectations of the Chiefs are. Is it that you take one Chief and say, he's the outlier, he's not going to keep up with the other group? Is it a team effort? What about the quarterback? What's happening with Gracie Hunt's Chiefs? What can you tell us about the fantasy football opportunities there?
Well, I think that the Chiefs are going to throw the ball a lot more than they have in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Basically because they've got Simmons at left tackle, which I think is just going to completely change what they can do on offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect them to be more efficient, throw the ball a lot more, and have a deeper ADOT for Mahomes. You know, he had to throw a lot of short passes because there was so much pressure on him.
Yes.
And, you know, back in the day with Tyreek Hill, now none of these guys are Tyreek Hill, but they had a pretty deep ADOT when he was around. And I think they're going to go to that. They've got some pretty good speed with Worthy. He's got speed.
Hollywood
Brown's got some speed. So I think they're going to be all over the place, you know, being able to dump the ball off, hit them in the middle with Rice and Kelsey and go deep. Make the defense.
And Balky brought it up last week, and already the comments in the chat. Balky surprised me with the Mojo's draft spot on quarterback Mahomes being as late as it is. And I think it's I agree with you. And if I was Gorillaing like I would want to be, those Gorilla teams would have Mahomes available at what draft spot? Balky?
He's like mid-7th, I think.
7-10 right now. 7-10 over the last 3 days.
That's almost 8. Even
Right,
I can figure out those numbers.
That was my point too. I was bringing this up, I think, last night. He is the quarterback 6 at 7-10. Quarterback 7 is Bo Nix at 907. That's basically 2 rounds after Mahomes. And then quarterback 5, Joe Burrow, is the 504. So you're basically looking at 2.5 rounds before Mahomes. So he is the only quarterback being drafted in almost like 5 rounds worth from the 5th to the 10th, which is crazy to think about. What was the other thing I wanted to point out from the YouTube chat tonight? I think we kind of answered this already, but Todd, I'll let you have a crack at this. Scott Hoyt, can Mahomes get back in the top 5-6 with all these weapons and possibly better O-line? Quite frankly, I think he could do better than 5th this year, even though he's not a runner. And Todd, the way that you think Kansas City is going to matriculate the ball down the field with a lot of deeper passes down the field, I think you're subscribing to that theory as well.
Yeah, let me preface this by saying I'm a Chiefs homer. Okay? I've been a Chiefs fan since Super Bowl 4. A long time. In fact, Ferrell and I had a conversation. I know he's a Raiders fan. So at one point we would have had a little trouble talking, but frankly,
let me
the Raiders haven't been that good lately. You can't really hate the Raiders when they're playing so poorly, right?
Yeah, well, Todd, we just don't hate anyone. And my love of Otis Taylor, Jan Stenerud, Lynn Dawson, and the guys that came before him and the guys that came after him, that's one hell of a football team. You gotta love them.
Who was the actor from the Chiefs? He was in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Williamson.
The Hammer. The Hammer. It was Fred, right? Fred the Hammer Williamson. I remember him too. Fantastic actor. From Dusk Till Dawn, Ferrell, great movie. Jaden Higgins, Todd, is a rookie this year. In fact, he's one of the extremely few second-round picks that have been signed so far as we head into July, for God's sake. Jaden Higgins got a fully guaranteed deal from Houston. It's clear what the Texans believe in him. No Diggs there anymore. Tank Dell probably not going to be playing this season. It's going to be Nico Collins, and then it could be Higgins and Knoll. Obviously, you got Christian Kirk there as well. But how much Jaden Higgins specifically, Todd, have you been drafting this year? Kind of curious as to what we should be doing as high-stakes fantasy football players. Is this a player that we should be targeting?
In my rookie drafts this year, he was the player I took the most, except for three outliers. I'm just taking a shot on guys like Isaiah Bond. He might not even play. I don't know. But if he does, that'll be great for me. I was getting him in the 6th, 7th, 8th round, right? And DJ Giddens, I took a shot on him quite a bit. And then there was another Chiefs receiver.
Oh, Jalen Royals. Yeah.
But other than that, I took a shot with Higgins. So I think he's got a lot of opportunity. As you pointed out, there's a couple of guys that you don't expect to play in Houston. And I don't know what Kirk's got left, right? He may play inside too. I think he's a more natural slot receiver than an outside receiver. And Higgins can play everywhere. Or not Higgins, but
Nico Collins talking about?
Yeah, Jaden Higgins. Yeah, but he can play inside or outside. He can do it too. So I think in a 3-receiver set, he's going to be on the field quite a bit. One way or another.
I want to shift the focus, and we'll stay in the AFC. This has been like an AFC show so far, with the exception of the Tampa conversation. Mark Andrews, a player that, we spent most of the drafting season, at least the early drafting season, wondering if he was going to be traded, wondering if he would find himself into a place like Miami. And now, as we get closer and closer to the start of the season, it seems like Mark Andrews is still going to be a significant part of that Ravens offense. Todd, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think how bad he was towards the end of the year, and obviously you remember that really bad playoff game that he had with the drop. Sometimes I think that can leave a stronger sour taste in our mouths than what should be accurate and what should be realistic. So I think he might actually be falling a little too far right now. Tight end premium leagues, like the Big Gorilla, tight end 9. He is not going until the mid-7th round. And Njoku, Engram, both comfortably going ahead of him, as well as Kelsey and Hawkinson. Are FFPC players letting Andrews slip just a little too far? I
think where he's going is probably fair. I do expect him to have a good season, to bounce back from what you saw at the end of last year. But I don't think he can put up the numbers that he did previously, in years past. So that's probably a fair spot for him to go. And I do have quite a bit of him in my dynasty leagues, and I'm not getting rid of him. I'm going to keep him. I'm going to ride it out. I got Evans in quite a few too. In fact, I think everyone you asked me about, I've got. You
have a lot of dynasty shares of.
Yeah, Kelsey was, and then Andrews, and
a lot of these elite tight ends, and obviously Evans too.
And
Bucky Irving. Do you have a lot of Bucky Irving?
Yeah, I was lucky. So last year during the rookie drafts, at first I didn't pay much attention to him, and then I read a couple of articles about him. And he hadn't shown up yet in Tampa Bay, but there was a real buzz about him before he even got there. And so I started grabbing him.
And Balky started that buzz. Balky was on him before anyone. Balky led the way in the Bucky.
I think that's being a bit hyperbolic. I
think that's the absolute truth. I will not be accused of being hyperbolic.
Okay,
I come to this show much styled like Todd. I'm learning things from Todd. I appreciate his boldness, his Midwestern directness, and his lack of extraneous verbiage. And I want you to use that to explain to me what in the hell can we expect from Evan Engram, these tight ends on the move now. Evan Engram going to Denver, the notoriously 40-something catch player a year. A couple of years ago, he breaks loose for 114, I think. And then last year, he was on pace for 80-plus receptions before his injury. Is the Evan Engram in Denver, will he resemble Jacksonville, or will he be a New York Giants version of Evan Engram?
I think he's going to have a great year. I think that they're going to use him in a variety of ways. They're going to put him all over the field. He's going to be their joker. They've talked about who's going to be the joker in Denver, and right now it sounds like Engram. That could change. They could go with some running back, but I think he's got speed and power that he can match up with players all over the field. They'll have trouble on defense, and I expect big things from him.
I love that. And, as Balky pointed out, we've been an AFC-centric show tonight. As fans of AFC West football, I don't think there's a more compelling fantasy football division than the AFC West. And Denver now is Denver is the team that allows me to make that statement. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's a much tougher division, real football and fantasy football.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of players. I know that the NFC Central's got some good teams, Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit. They're all going to vie for playoff spots. But I think you see the same thing in the AFC West. I think the Raiders they've improved too. The problem is the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos have also improved. So, yeah.
I think you named it, Todd. I think those are the two best divisions, top to bottom, in the NFL, is the NFC North and AFC West. The Evan Engram discussion, I just want to put a bow on this with that. There are 3 tight ends going in the 6th round in FFPC Big Gorilla drafts right now. In order, it's Travis Kelce, it's TJ Hawkinson, and then it's Evan Engram. Would you be willing to take Evan Engram ahead of either Kelce or Hawkinson? Do you like him that much this season?
I'm probably too much of a homer to take him in front of Kelce, but I wouldn't blame someone if they did. I just couldn't do it. That's all. I do think he's going to have a great season, though. But I also think Kelce's going to have a comeback season. Mm-hmm. Now, he was on the field for the 3rd most plays last year.
Yeah.
Wow. So I think he kind of wore down.
Yeah.
I think this year, with all the weapons the Chiefs have, if they can just stay healthy, they'll be able to use him less and more effectively.
You remember, though, Todd, some of his actions, especially in the red zone, if they ever bring him off the field. He goes straight to the coach and begins a very aggressive lobbying to head back on the field. So, yeah, if he misses 5 plays a game, that's a big rest time for Kelce, I think. I agree with you. Congratulations on being named and selected and invited to the Pros versus Joes. You looking forward to it?
Oh, I'm very excited. It's the first time I've been invited. I've only played the main event a couple of times previously. Mm-hmm. The first year I played it, I don't know which year it was. I did win my league, but when I got to the playoffs, I think half my starters were hurt.
It happened.
I had no shot.
Well,
and then the second one was kind of a failure. So I'm looking forward to this year, and I'm really looking forward to the Pros versus Joes. I watch all those episodes too.
And hopefully that will light a fuse for you to return to the main event. I would like to see you in the room more often. I will give you some of the Pros versus Joes are my favorite times to join Balky on the show, and then we invite in. We become a 3-headed monster when Dave Turp joins us for those shows. The supercilious Pros are immune to humility. So even though you will beat them, they'll never admit to it, which means that your role is to beat the other Joes. That's the challenge that you have. So now that you're here, please give us a breakdown on your strategy of how you're going to thwart the Joes. The Pros you'll handle just by showing up, but the Joes, how are you going to win?
Let me preface this also by saying I play mostly Dynasty. I play very little redraft.
Mm-hmm.
I play Superflex,
mm-hmm.
very little Standard, and I play mostly Best Ball, not starting lineups.
Right.
So
yeah, we're aware of that.
Okay. So this is not a new territory for me, but one that, this year I've only done a couple of drafts, so 2 Big Gorilla drafts. That's basically all I've done.
Well, bear in mind, Todd, that I don't know when we switched it, or maybe I don't think we ever switched it. Pros versus Joes has always been Best Ball. So that part you should be in your wheelhouse for. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
My plan is to watch the first 5 drafts. Fortunately, Darren put me in the 6th and final live draft, which I asked him to do if he could. I said I wanted one in the second week because I want to see what's going on in these drafts.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I do understand is you're really only playing against your league. Yes, there is the belt for the overall first place prize, but you're really only competing against 11 players. So it's not like these other large contests. And that's more in my wheelhouse too. So again, I'm just going to watch the drafts and probably come up with my strategy literally after draft number 5. So I got like 24 hours before draft number 6. That's all I've got at this point. I might do a little reading.
That's a plan. And, just like Mile High Luke, you will be extracting information.
Yes, you will. 27 days from now, right on this show, Todd Aaron will be drafting his pros.
Is it that soon, Balky?
Yeah, because we start on. I want to say. Let me think about this for a second.
It would be the 20th, right?
What I thought it started. Hold on, now I got to look this up. Now I'm confused. Okay, so why can't I get to it? God bless it. This is
today is June 2nd, Balky. So just be noted.
No, July. It's July.
See what I did there, Todd? Yeah. See what I did there? I got him all. I got him.
So
he's on top of it.
We have July 20th, July 21st, July 22nd. That's drafts 1, 2, and 3. So July 27th, July 28th, and July 29th will be drafts 4, 5, and 6, which makes Todd on July 29th for draft number 6 at 10 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll have it right here for you on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. I want to draw the conversation back to the Chiefs, Todd, and I know maybe you're not the greatest, most unbiased player to be talking about the Chiefs, but Joe King posts on YouTube right now tonight, somehow Kansas City has the least fun players to click. And I thought, well, that's
come on, Joe.
That's kind of interesting. It says that. And then Sean Green comes out. Pacheco is a hard click this year. And I actually can understand that a little bit. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on this Chiefs running game, but Todd, if you can give us any insight on the correct Chiefs running back to be drafting, that would really be immensely helpful to all of us tonight.
Well, I still like Pacheco. He came back last year, but he was hurt. I don't think he was fully recovered. They just wanted him to play so badly.
Yes.
I mean, they were playing Hunt, who's like 30 years old or something, right? Whatever he is.
And he did well.
He did well, but I think he gained like 3.3 yards per carry. They just handed him the ball a lot, and they wanted somebody else to be able to handle the carries. So I think you're going to see a revival of Pacheco, but I still wouldn't go crazy with Pacheco. Yeah, and there is Elijah Mitchell. There's also the rookie that they drafted,
Rashard Smith.
We talked about, Smith. So, and I think he's going to catch a lot of passes. So you might look at somebody like that late, But anyway, I don't know about, as the first commenter said, boring picks. I don't know if they're boring.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah, they're just least fun. And Adam Hahn chimed in. Worthy's an easy click, and I think he's a fun click this year too.
Yeah, I think they're all fun. If Mahomes starts throwing the ball around, like I think all three of us agreed, led by the genius as to what Mahomes is going to do this year, I think they all become real fun. I was talking to an old school football coach this week, and he said something, and I think it applies to Pacheco. Offensive lines and the running game. And what's the name of the tackle that the Chiefs are getting back this year?
Josh
Simmons. They drafted him.
Yeah. Oh, they drafted, of course. But don't they have an injured player returning? Be that as it may, that group as it plays as a group, there's certain running backs that you want to block for, that you really want behind you as an offensive line. The different running backs are viewed differently by that unique group of offensive linemen. And Pacheco, the way he runs hard and the way he hits the hole, an offensive lineman loves that guy. And that's why I think this player will, as long as he can consistently be healthy, is going to be a great addition to any backfield. Now, he may not get the Chuba Hubbard type carries, but whatever he does with touching the ball and catching the ball, I think he's going to be a big payday. And as a number 2 running back for your fantasy team, you could do a lot worse.
The Chiefs guys, the running backs on the ADP, Pacheco 711, Brashard Smith has made it all the way up to 1402, Kareem Hunt 1703, and Elijah Mitchell just behind him at 1805. So Pacheco being drafted in the top 30 running backs, Brashard Smith in the top 60, Kareem Hunt in the top 70, and Elijah Mitchell in the top 75. So there you go. I mean,
I love Elijah Mitchell.
I just drafted Elijah Mitchell in the KFFSC.
I love Elijah Mitchell. No player has been talked about more who has done less than Elijah Mitchell. We do love him.
I just love the fact that you can get a piece of this Chiefs passing game with a 14th round pick or later. Running game, I should say, with a 14th round pick or later. So yeah, if Pacheco's a hard click, as Sean Green's pointing out in the 7th round, then take Brashard Smith in the 14th.
Do the Chiefs play Thursday night?
Yeah, it's Chiefs and
they play Friday night in week 1.
No, that's
Friday
what it is.
Night in week 1.
I think it's Chiefs.
They're in Brazil.
Go up Thursday. Yeah. I like the idea of Chiefs.
Eagles Cowboys, I think, is Thursday, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Eagles are involved. Cowboys too.
Brock Purdy is a player that I feel like I am not getting enough of so far this year, Todd. He's a player that I think is, say what you will about his chops and his skill set. And, if you believe he's playing as a game manager, man, I want to have the game manager quarterback that has the Niners schedule this year, because he's going to manage his way to a lot of touchdowns. He's going to manage his way to a lot of yardage. He's going to get Brandon Ayuk back at some point this season. But even before that, he still has the greatness that is George Kittle. He still has Juwan Jennings. He's getting an ascending player in Ricky Pearsall, and then some guy named Christian McCaffrey as well. I'm a big believer in Brock Purdy this year. I just wish I had more of him. How have you been handling Purdy?
Yeah, I like him too. I think he's going, 12th round or something? As QB 12?
Quarterback 1205, yes.
Yeah. Seems like a great value to me. I agree with you with the easy schedule, except they have to play the AFC West. Yeah, but they might be behind in all 4 of those games and have to throw the ball a lot. So you have that working in his favor.
Right.
And, McCaffrey, he catches a lot of passes too. So he's good for Purdy. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the receivers and, of course, Kittle. He's a stud. So, yeah, I expect big things out of Purdy too. I know there's the guy that's boring, I guess, to draft.
Yes, yeah. That's a good point right there. Todd, a couple of emails here for you before we get to Ferrell's final question. Rich in Long Beach. Todd, are you grabbing Tyreek Hill or letting someone else take him this season? Thank you for the email, Rich in Long Beach. Right now, Tyreek Hill has an ADP in the Big Gorilla of wide receiver 14. He is not coming off the board on average until the 305, Todd. Is that something, is that a sticker price you're paying, or are you letting somebody else purchase that?
Who's going around him?
Right now, we have Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 14. You're looking at Rashee Rice and Garrett Wilson right above him, T. Higgins and Jackson Smith and Jigba right below him.
Well, obviously, I like Rice, though that is a pretty hefty price. I did some drafts early in the year. I think it was on DraftKings or something, but I got Rice in the 7th round. In fact, I got the whole Chiefs offense starting in round 6 and later. And so my first 5 picks were just, some studs on other teams. So I feel pretty good about that team. You can't get that anymore, right? I mean, Rice has moved up. Worthy's moved up. I wouldn't be surprised if Mahomes moves up before, you get to the big drafts in September. But, yeah. Anyway.
Well,
I do like Hill.
Yeah.
But I'm a little worried about him. So early in the year, I was trying to acquire him for dynasty leagues. And I was offering 205, 206, something like that. And everyone turned me down. I don't know if they would turn me down now. I might be able to get a few takers, but I'm not so sure I want him anymore either.
It's crazy how the mighty have fallen, right? And I think, in my opinion, I think the people that are that have him in dynasty leagues right now, Todd, do not want to sell him at a perceived 65 or 70 cents on the dollar, because they understand how explosive a player he is. They understand that the Dolphins offense was completely different than what a lot of people expected it was going to be last year. And I think they're betting and maybe hoping is a better praying that Hill has this massive bounce back, and then they could sell him for 85 or 90 cents on the dollar, 2/3 of the way at trade deadline this season in the FFPC or something like that. Everybody thinks about it in a different way. But I think certainly you make a good point that we are thinking about Tyreek Hill much differently now on July 2nd than we were in early May, 2 months ago. It's crazy how fast things can change. Frank in Geneva, Illinois, final email here for you, Todd, tonight. Hey, Todd, how much better is Russell Wilson going to improve that Giants offense? Good luck in Pros versus Joes. That is Frank in Geneva, Illinois. Frank, we appreciate it. Russell Wilson, now a Giant. I don't know how long he's going to start, Todd, because they got Jackson Dart in the first round this year too. But you think about how bad that Giants offense was last year, aside from Malik Neighbors, how much better does the improved quarterback room headlined by Russell Wilson make this for fantasy purposes in 2025?
Yeah, and Jamison Williams.
Yeah.
Or,
Jameis Winston.
Sorry, Winston, yeah. I actually think Dart might end up starting the season.
Wow.
I think the Giants realize that they're just not in a good position, and why not just take your lumps and put them in there and let him learn by playing.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. If they do go with Wilson, he is an improvement over what they've had in the past, but I don't know that it's a big improvement. So he's a guy that I have avoided altogether. I don't have any fears of him.
Yeah, I think for the Giants this year, Steven Yergalos is not in the chat room tonight, but he would back me up on this. Theo Johnson late, Malik Neighbors early, and then in the middle, I wouldn't take both Scadaboo and Tyrone Tracy, but I will get the occasional Scadaboo. I will get the occasional Tracy. Outside of that, man, like Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, all these other guys, I really don't have any interest in them for fantasy, regardless of the upgrade at quarterback this year. It's just not the type of business I want to be doing with my fantasy teams.
Yeah, hey, Bob, look at the comment feeds.
All right, so we got Sean Green, Team Tracy. Adam Hahn says it's a bold call for Jackson Dart starting week 1. Scott Hoyt, they're paying him not to. They're not paying Wilson to sit. Luke says not sure he can afford to start Dart from the get-go, but Scott does think that he's going to start Dart at some point this season. And then Mile High Luke says Brian Dable is going to get fired if it's a dumpster fire.
But you're missing the one I wanted you to concentrate on. There's Steve G saying, I'm here. LOL.
Oh, he is in here. I didn't realize that. I apologize, Steve.
And see, here we are.
Normally he's more vocal, and I didn't see any comments.
We're here in the 55th minute of the show. And one gentleman suggested we go 2 hours, and that was really nice. But we're here in the 55th minute of the show, and our guest throws out some information that 10 to 15 comments are then populated in the chat. How sweet it is. I think we got to get you back here more than every 13 years. But before you go, you got to tell us something. This is my favorite question of the week. You cannot use a player that we have previously mentioned. It's disallowed. So you must come with a player that will not see the roster, any of your rosters forthgoing in the rest of the season. You won't be drafting this player. And then give us a guy that whether he be a must-get early draft pick or one of your sleepers, a guy that you really, really are excited about picking.
All right.
You don't need to worry because the pros won't pay any attention to what you're saying. and the Joes, you can't sway them, the ones. You're going to be okay. So go ahead and throw it out there.
All right. First, I hate that rule that you have, Ferrell, that I can't use a player that we talked about.
I'm sorry, you can't. No, you got to come with fresh and new information.
Because I think we had some great ones with Mahomes and Kelsey. But all right, we'll start with a player that I won't draft.
Yeah,
I'm probably not going to have any shares of Barkley. He had almost 500 touches last year, including the playoffs. That could be a record for all I know. It used to be that if a back had 400 or more touches, you could expect a down year the next year. And I think, Balky, you mentioned this too on one of your shows recently. When a guy has a year like Barkley had, it almost always results in a down year the next year, often because of injury. You know, with 500 touches, that is a lot.
Todd, I don't want to interrupt you, but I just looked this up. According to Pro Football Reference and StatMuse, I don't believe this is including playoffs. I don't think it is. James Wilder, of all people, back in 1984, had 492 touches with, you got it right, rushing attempts and receptions with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Wilder was first with 492. Larry Johnson, 457 in 2006. Eddie George at 453 in 2000. Those are your top three on there. So, yeah, with Barkley, I'm going to have to look this up for Barkley, including playoffs. I think it's very interesting. But keep going.
Well, I think he had like 380 something in the regular season, but they had 4 playoff games, and I think he averaged almost 30 touches a game. So I think it's right at 500, but you can take a look. Anyway,
I'm sorry to interrupt you again. I have it now. Okay. So last year, including playoffs for Barkley, he had 436 carries, and he had 46 catches, including playoffs. So that puts him at 482 touches, including playoffs, which is very close to a record. You're right.
Yeah, so I probably won't draft him just because I'm worried about injury. And I also don't know that – I mean, he's just not going to repeat what he did. It's really hard because he had a fantastic year. It's really hard to repeat that. Plus, he's starting to get a little bit older. I know that we're seeing guys like Derrick Henry. He seems ageless, so maybe things are changing. You know, guys are in better shape. They can last longer. But still, after 500 touches or 482, 486?
482.
Something like that.
482.
Yeah, that's just a lot. So I would rather go with Bijan or Gibbs if I'm going to take a running back kind of early first round. Otherwise, I'd probably just take a wide receiver, or depending on where my draft position is, I do like tight ends. So I could see, going with Bowers or somebody like that. So,
or maybe McBride late in the first too. I mean, if you have a late first round pick too, that's
I do like him. He put up a lot of points and didn't score a touchdown until week 17 or 18, whatever it was.
Do you apply? And I don't want to interrupt because we do have you got to ask us who you love, or you got to tell us who you love. But I want to ask you: do you apply the same theory to Henry, the touches?
I did last year, and I got burned. So somebody asked, who do you think is going to be, I don't know, the biggest disappointment, or a question, something like that.
Yeah.
And I said Henry. And after week 1, well, that looked pretty good because even though they scored a lot of points against the Chiefs, Henry had a pretty subpar game. But then from week 2 on, he just tore it up. So I'm not going to doubt him again. I learned my lesson.
And he only had 386 touches last year.
That's an easy walk in the park.
Nothing. Yeah, exactly. Like, he probably didn't even feel it at all. He never even iced his body once throughout the season. Give him a real challenge.
AFC West question off I'm going rogue here, Balky. I'm going rogue here. A question genius. How many yards is the rookie running back Genty for the Raiders going to record this year? Noted he's a first-round pick. Am I right, Balky? FFPC first-round pick?
Yeah, you're looking at, well, I mean, I wouldn't say he's always a first-round pick, but his ADP over the last 3 days is 110. Now, he's gone as late as the 203, but yes, usually in the first round, correct.
How many yardage, how much rushing yards for this player, Todd, in this upcoming year?
I'd really like to see what the line is in Vegas. I would take the over, whatever it is.
Trying to find that right now.
Yeah, if you can, that'd be great. I think he's going to have at least 1,100. I think he's going to have a very successful rookie campaign. I like Genty, and the Raiders have made some changes to make him more effective. You know, Geno Smith for sure, and you still got Bowers, and even their wide receivers, they're actually doing pretty well, even though they're not big names. So I think they're going to have a pretty good offense.
From our friends,
defense might be just kind of fair, but
from our friends in the desert, Todd, minus 110 at 1,100 rushing yards this year. That's not total yards, that's rushing.
I was just taking a guess, but I would go over.
Yeah, we go over. But considering that the guys in the desert are sometimes right, I will point out that Derrick Henry last year rushed for about 1,100 yards in the second half of all games. Just take the first half away. 1,100 yards in the second half of all games. But he will be drafted behind Genty. Just saying. Who's the guy you love? Give us a mad sleeper, Mad Genius.
See, I was all ready for Mahomes and Kelsey, and now
I'm sorry, sir. We knocked you off the game.
Another guy I would have thrown out was Engram, but we've already talked about him too.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm. While you think of that, I'll bring this up to you guys too before we completely move on from Genty. Sean Green pointing out in the chat last year, and granted this was college, but still, it was 397 touches for Ashton Genty, his final year at Boise State. Are we concerned with him as well, or is it because Genty is so many more years younger than Barkley that it's not as big of a deal to us?
I'm a little concerned, but I would say the age plays a big factor. And so,
I would say that the guys from Air Force, Idaho, Fresno,
Army,
San Jose just don't tackle like the NFL players do. I'm going to throw that one in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a good point. And he probably had a lot of long runs, breakaways too. So I don't know how many. And it seemed like he had a pretty hefty average after first contact too, if I remember right. Something like 5 yards after first contact.
Yeah.
So, that would support your theory that not very good tacklers were playing against him.
Or Genty's just unbelievable. Or a combination.
That's true.
All right. Todd, any players that like, and I think who posted it in here, your secrets are safe here, Todd. Your secrets are safe on YouTube. Mile High Luke pointing that out right now. Are there any sleepers that you can turn us on to that you've been turned on to in your draft so far this season?
Well, again, we talked about him, though. Jaden Higgins. That's why I took so many shares of him in the rookie draft.
I will waive because we want to hear the deep belief and the definition of why more important than who. So I will waive for you.
Thank you.
This requirement. You may mention you may select a player who was previously mentioned in the show.
Yeah, and that maybe we didn't get deep into, Todd. Is there anybody?
I think the player that's going to outperform his ADP the most is probably going to be Mahomes.
Yeah.
I just think the opportunities that he's going to have. I think the Chiefs will have more plays. They'll throw deeper passes. He's got healthy receivers, running backs to catch the ball as well, and the left tackle. And they did pick up a left guard too because they traded Joe Tooney to Chicago, I think.
Yep.
Or maybe he signed as a free agent. I can't remember.
That was a trade. You were right. It was a trade. Yes.
So he was good, but I think the guy that's going to replace him will do just as well. And I think Simmons is going to make a huge difference. It's just going to be night and day. It's going to be like the Chiefs of a couple of years ago.
Trey Smith, super good guard, right guard. Creed Humphrey, obviously the all-pro at center. You got Juwan Taylor on that team too. That offensive line is pretty good. I'll be very excited, guys, to see if anybody pulls this off in the Pros versus Joes, because it has never been easier to create a Chiefs super stack than it is this year, where you could grab Rashee Rice. Technically, on average in the Big Gorilla, there's more than a 50% chance that you could get both Rice and Worthy. You could get Kelsey in that format as well. And you could easily get Mahomes. Granted, you probably aren't going to do 4 of those guys, but Rice and or Worthy, Kelsey and Mahomes, that's round 3 or 4, and then round 6, and then round 7. And you could still get
you could get Brown.
You get Hollywood Brown easily too. I mean, there's going to be some crazy Chiefs fan, and maybe it's Todd Aaron. We don't know. He's the mad genius of fantasy football. Could be pulling this off here in Pros versus Joes. But I'll be very excited to see if anybody can do that. And if Todd's the guy to do it, we will be seeing him live. July 29th, 10 p.m. Eastern time on this here channel for Pros versus Joes number 6. Be very excited to see what you do. I'm going to send you the link for the show, and hopefully you can hop aboard, make a couple of picks on air too, Todd, because we always like it when you do the pop-in for sure. Until then, we will have to continue to follow you on X at Mad Genius of FFB1. We will continue to wish you good luck in all of your leagues this season, including Pros versus Joes, and especially that FFPC Main Event and Big Gorilla, where you're going for not $1 but $2 million grand prizes this year. I looked it up before I let you go. March 20th, 2014. It was season 3 of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. That was the last time we had you on. So now here it is. It only took 11 and a half years later to get you back. I promise you.
Well, that's fine. I think I had some terrible advice, so now they've forgotten. So it's all good.
Thank you, Todd. Be good. Enjoy your holiday weekend, man.
All right, guys. Have a good one, and talk to you on the 29th.
You got it. That is Todd Aaron, the mad genius of fantasy football. What a pleasure it was speaking with him tonight. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I just love that guy. You didn't ask him where he's from.
Todd is I know he lives out on the west. Well, I don't know if it's West Coast, but it's the western part of the country. Mm-hmm. California, Arizona, somewhere around there. I don't know exactly. If I remember correctly, it's been over a decade.
We consider the western part of the country Paducah. So I don't what could that mean, Balky?
Right, I know it could be
a lot of opportunity there.
We have been going through these Joes. We've been getting a lot of Joes on the show. And we will take a brief respite for that on the show next week, Ferrell. When we do the show next week, it is going to be the same time, 10 p.m. Eastern, but we will do it on Friday, and it's going to be live draft coverage of a Big Gorilla draft. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Until then, I'm sure I'll speak with you before then. But thanks so much for hanging out with me, and have a great 4th of July in Louisville, my friend.
You too, brother.
That is Ferrell Elliott, ladies and gentlemen, the definitive commissioner. How about that? We got the mad genius of fantasy football and the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. And somehow the internet didn't break tonight. Unbelievable stuff. What a treat that you guys got to sit through and enjoy with both Ferrell Elliott and Todd Aaron. That will complete our show tonight. As I said, Big Gorilla live draft coverage. When we come back next Friday, that will be July 11th at 10 p.m. Eastern time. If you guys want to sign up for that, go to the Big Gorilla registration page. It's already up there. It's marked off as live on HSFF Hour. You can draft live on the show next week. In case you missed the Insider Access show last week on the Better Sports Network, we had player profiler scribe, Stack Hunters co-host Dan Williamson, and GOAT District co-host Dan Williamson was on the show. So glad that the GOAT District's back. That's awesome to see as well. You can rewatch that on the FFPC socials, Better Sports Network socials, and of course, bettersportsnetwork.com. We will be live again tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Player profiler, writer, Dynasty League football and Fantasy Alarm contributor, and host of the press coverage show on the Player Profiler Podcast Network, Wyatt Bertolone, will join me at 7 p.m. Eastern time. You can watch that on bettersportsnetwork.com, of course, the Better Sports Network socials, and the FFPC socials as well. Last night, we kicked off July with Vince Staffolino appearing for the July 2025 episode of the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. That was a lot of fun. You can watch that back at your convenience anywhere you get podcasts or on YouTube. And of course, the next show will be for the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown will be August 5th. And that will be the last drafting season show that we have, as we will go live each and every Tuesday after that in September. But the next show we have of RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, August 5th, Rick Raymaker, who is an FFPC Pros versus Joe this year. That will be after he has already drafted. So we'll break down his draft and get into a lot of more fun stuff on the show as well. Join the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament, the FFPC Main Event, the FFPC Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball Tournaments, and of course, FFPC Dynasty Startups available at myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, get notified each and every time we go live, which will be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. on Insider Access here on the FFPC socials. Thank you so much for Ferrell Elliott, for Todd Aaron. I'm Eric Balkman. This has been the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour on the FFPC YouTube channel. Your holiday weekend starts maybe a little bit early right now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
I want everybody to have a great 4th of July, obviously, and I know we're all getting older now. Time only moves in one direction. Let's still be safe. Let's still be rational. Let's still think things through, and let's not do anything crazy here. Oinker says, don't play with fireworks. And with that, we will leave you to it. I'll talk with you tomorrow night. This show returns next Friday. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.